Welcome to the Jedi Ranger. I'm JohnBerry555, and today I'm presenting my spoiler-free review of The Mandalorian and Grogu. So, I'm going to remain spoiler-free. I might allude to stuff happening and all that, but I will not be spoiling or revealing anything that actually does happen in the film. So, to begin with, if you haven't saw my initial thoughts review, go check that out. It's just a YouTube show. It's almost 3 minutes long. Pretty explanatory. It's literally what I recorded as soon as I got out to the theater and back to my car. But now that I've had some time to think about it, I have some additional thoughts I would like to add. But first, just to recap, I thought the film was enjoyable. I had a good time watching it, and I really do want to watch it again. I think it did a very good job. It's not profound or anything, and I wasn't expecting it to be profound. I was expecting it to be fun. I was expecting it to be a bit heartwarming, and all that and more is what I got out of the film. Now, granted, that can be very subjective, and that's an emotional-based thing, not necessarily a statement of fact. But emotionally, I am satisfied with the film. I also mentioned that I very much felt like the film earned the name, The Mandalorian and Grogu, because the film is about both of them and their relationship with each other. And there is a significant moment / time in the film where it's just Grogu. No Din. He's not, he does impact the plot, but he's not actively impacting the plot, and therefore it's on Grogu to now direct the action of our heroes. And that's giving him stuff to do rather than being a passive observer or a chaos gremlin as he kind of was in some of the episodes of the TV show. So, very much so has to do with it. And the emotional crux of this film is, of course, obviously between the Mandalorian and Grogu, but it's articulated by the character of Rota the Hutt, Jabba the Hutt's son, who, I don't know if this is going to be spoilers or not, so this is treading on the line of being a spoiler, is very much involved in the film more than I got the sense from the marketing. I expected to be his role to be mostly a cameo, one and done and forget. But no, he plays a role in the film, and it's a very interesting role, and I think there's going to be a lot of people who very much relate to Rota and his position, his motivations in the film. And that's what I'm going to say on his character, because his character was done, I think, so well, and I really loved how they did it. Now, I will say, the Hutts actually do speak a lot of basic rather than just Huttese. And you could go either way on how you feel about that personally, but I do like it from an accessibility standpoint. When we think back to Return of the Jedi and other appearances of the Hutts, do we really need to know what they're saying? No, we don't. But here, especially with Rota, we need to know what he's saying because he's an active part in conversation. And translating, whether it be with subtitles or a character on screen, just would hurt the story. If you think back to I think it was season 1 of The Mandalorian, might have been season 2, but basically when Din is on Tatooine and he teams up with somebody else and they end up, and Cobb Vanth, I think, does Cobb Vanth show up in that episode? No, I don't think he does. But regardless, there's a scene where Din uses sign language to communicate with the Tusken Raiders, the Sand People, and translate what the conversation, not just to us, the audience, but another character in the episode. I don't think that would work in this film, so I understand the artistic and the creative decision to have the Hutts speak basic, especially for Rota, given his characterization, his motivations. For him speaking basic is empowering for his character. And again, that's treading on spoiling again, but what they did with his character, like I said, was so great. And there's also another thing too with Grogu and a background, a side character that we probably will never see again, a literal glupshito, where another great message is conveyed, and a message that kind of harkens back to some of the stuff that we've seen addressed before in Star Wars, especially involving the Jedi. Again, not going to get too much into it because I don't want to spoil it, but there's these small moments here and there, some small moments and large moments that provide an emotional crux, an emotional feel to the film that I really appreciate and I really like what they did and how that contributed to the overall story being told. And yes, there is a story. It's not just a series of adventures. Though I can definitely tell how this is no fault of the film, but I can definitely tell the first half of the film felt very much like could have easily have been stretched into a whole season's worth of events and all that was compressed down, and it works. And the second half of the season or the movie feels very much more written for the movie, if that makes sense. Now, they probably did a lot of other rewrites when they decided not to do a season 4 instead do a film. But that's one thing I really appreciate as well. You can tell, yeah, I can see how they adapted some television ideas into the movie. When you compare it to other Star Wars projects, namely Book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan Kenobi, which were originally envisioned as movies, then adapted to the television streaming format, those suffered from pacing issues. I think even The Acolyte, too, I don't know if it was originally conceived as a movie or a series, but you can definitely tell it suffered from pacing issues that could have been fixed by having a more constrained time slot. And The Mandalorian and Grogu is a movie, so it can be essentially a super long television episode, but also too, if you compress a serialized story down, what do you get? You get a movie. And that very much helps this film achieve what it's going to do. If somehow they told the first half of the film as a series or as part of a season 4 or something, there would have needed to be a lot of filler that I don't think would have helped the story in the long run. There's a lot more I would love to discuss about this film. There's some great comedic moments, plus those heartwarming, even bittersweet moments at times. There's some nice action scenes, some very interesting action scenes too. There's this, I'm going to tread close to spoilers, but I'm not going to go into it. But there's one scene where it looks like something bad is going to happen to a main character, but another main character prevents it in the most chaotic way possible. Not the way I was expecting it to resolve, though I really wish they had done it, because the way I expected that event to be resolved was almost set up by an earlier event in the film that didn't happen. Does that make sense? But then it does happen later on, where it actually is fulfilled in a way that makes way more sense than the way I was expecting it. Again, does that sound complicated? Because it definitely is. But to try to restate it a little bit better, there was a scene earlier in the film that seemed like it was setting up something to happen later in the film. It does happen later in the film, but I was expecting it to happen earlier than it actually did, in a different context than it actually did happen, though the context it did happen is more similar to the original context, which actually is better than what I was expecting, which I very much appreciate that my expectations were wrong, but end up getting a better product as a result. So, what else can I say about this film in that spoiler-free context besides I want to see it again and I very much appreciated it? There's not too much, because now I feel the need to get into those spoilers, and so let's get into them in my next video. For now, let me know your spoiler-free review thoughts on The Mandalorian and Grogu. I would love to hear from them, and I hope you join me for my next video where I will be giving my full spoiler review of this film. Thank you for watching my video. I do hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to give this video a like and share. Also, consider subscribing to my channel to stay up to date on all my latest content. In the meantime, thank you for watching, and as always, have a good day, a good night, wherever you are. May the Force be with you always.